classic Halloween specials, either their one-off things or their favorite episodes to your favorite TV series, whatever the cause may be, I do feel a certain excitement when I discover one for the first time. And to my surprise, this thing has been on TV for years. That special, of course, being the Halloween Tree. It tells the story of a group of kids who follow a ghoulish man through historical events in order to find their friend. What fascinates me is how not only does this appear on Cartoon Network every once in a while, but it's also based on a short story by the late and acclaimed writer Ray Bradbury. He even goes as far as to narrate the film despite the few changes they made from book to small screen.
The pumpkins on the tree were not mere pumpkins. Each had a face sliced in it. Each face was different. Every nose was a weirder nose. Every mouth smiled hideously in some new way.
The movie was made in the early 90s, which means given our nostalgia is moving away from the 80s and into this era, it's been getting attention again. However, rather that this become a good experience for newcomers, should it stay in the catacombs of the forgotten? Let's find out. Our movie follows 4 kids ready to go trick-or-treating, but are concerned when their leader, Pimpkin, has been rushed to the hospital. However, stranger things are afoot when a ghostly form of their friend is running through the woods. They follow him to a haunted house owned by an eccentric man.
Why have you disrupted me and my business?
Believe it or not, this character is voiced by Leonard Nimoy. However, you would barely notice it's Mr. Spock, when all he does is try to cover it up with an awkward cackle.
No, a Halloween tree.
He has a tree outside his house with a jack-o'-lantern on each branch. This is called the Halloween tree, and it might have the souls of peoples within each pumpkin. But I don't know. They don't explain it. They see Pimpkin take a pumpkin from the top that resembles himself and begins to run off. Spock is mad and wants his pumpkin for reasons. So the kids surprisingly trust this creep they meet for the first time to help find their friend and retrieve his pumpkin. The haunted house put me off at first, and it's got that creepy-ass doorknob, but you know what? I think I can trust this guy. They follow him through the different events in history that both relate to the history of Halloween and trying to tie up the origins of their costumes. Kids who team up and go on adventures is not a new thing in film, and like I mentioned in a previous review, is sort of a genre on its own right. However, it makes sense for the kids to be the focus since, let's face it, Halloween is a holiday we mostly associate the kids traveling the night looking for a devious trick or a well-earned treat. This movie also focusing on a group of kids traveling the night looking for a devious trick or a well-earned treat, whether or not it's saving their friend or discovering the origins of Halloween. It doesn't help that they ignore stranger danger and have to trust a gloomy tour guide who can fly, turn into a mummy, then turns into a piñata full of bats, travel through time. Who exactly is this guy? My only assumption is that he's the Grim Reaper, hence why he can do all this stuff. Another reason why is that at the end of the film, he mentions having to collect Pimpkin's soul for reasons. The pacing is so disjointed it makes it hard to follow and understand all too well. Other times, you don't know if the movie is trying to scare you, or if it's trying to tie you into its whimsy. For example, in a moment that comes straight out of Bradbury, the kids have to make a giant kite to fly themselves to ancient Egypt. However, they come across a barn covered in circus flyers, and then the flyers' animals begin to come to life, and then they use magic to tear apart the flyers to create a freakish mesh of eyes, sharp teeth, and combined growls. But then they fly off into the air, playing the cliched Adventure Time music, all while you're still hearing the disjointed growls and screams of these animals. Are they alive? Do they feel the pain being inflicted on them? When the kite falls apart, do their lives come to an end as well? Good God, am I thinking too deeply about this? Other than the pacing and questionable tone, the movie does have one element that goes for it, and that's the history. While most Halloween specials take place on Halloween, very rarely do they talk about the history of its origins. The film takes an innovative approach towards educating its audience about the history of the holiday. They use the characters' costumes as a start on how each tradition comes to play. One kid dresses as a mummy, then they go to ancient Egypt on a night when families light candles and celebrate the dead. Another kid is a witch, they go to medieval Europe to see a broom festival. One kid's a monster, And then they take him to Notre Dame. Because of gargoyles? Yeah, it's still pretty cool. Even the other kid who's dressed as a skeleton is brought to one of the first Dias de los Muertos, even though it's not Halloween, but I think its intentions are good. Each time they're brought to a new location, they encounter their friend Pimpkin, as it seems like he's in danger. What I don't understand is why Spock is both reluctant towards taking these kids on these adventures. While it's revealed that he wants to collect Pimpkin's Pimpkin, or Pimpkin's Pumpkin, yeah, try saying that 3 times fast. What difference does it make for the kids to join him as well? Clearly he has the power to do it himself, but it seems like he's trying to justify it with having the kids solve the mystery to their costumes and their relevance to Halloween. Which, by the way, if you watch this again, he says there are 3 mysteries, and yet they go on 4.
Will you come with me and solve 3 mysteries in one?
Yes!
And I know what you're thinking. Joey, this is a Halloween special made for kids. He's supposed to serve as your tour guide for the kids to understand the holiday a little better. However, he's gotta have clear motivations. We really don't know what he is, why he's taking these kids on the journey, and why he's collecting the souls is such a big deal to him. It's an annoyance, and it keeps me from truly appreciating this as being one of the best Halloween specials out there. But at the end of the day, do I truly regret watching the Halloween tree? Not really. I think there was some enjoyment out of this story of seeing the kids discover the origins of the holiday. Teaching kids is not an easy task, especially when you try to force it down their throats. However, with the music, tone, and art direction, it makes it somewhat engaging. While not one of the best Halloween specials out there, I can see how kids who grew up with this special when it first aired would not mind revisiting it. Who knows? Maybe there are kids now who are discovering it for the first time and thinking about how cool its approach is to talking about the history of Halloween, making it worth the watch. Will there be chances I'd be watching it again? Probably not. All I'm saying is that given what I had to watch, it comes out to a somewhat okay rating.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's a little creepy with Dr. Spock and whatever, but who knows? It's pretty good.
For today's question, I would like to know, what is your favorite made-for-TV Halloween special? Could be anything. My personal favorite as of now was an episode of Community where everybody turns into zombies. Pretty cool stuff, not gonna lie. Now I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P and thanks for watching this Halloween review on the Cartoon Palooza. However, does that make it worth watching for newcomers, or should they stay in the statacombs for what are the statacombs? I meant the catacombs. What am I, some stupid idiot?